The morning they built that fence around my house, I stood in my kitchen holding a mug of coffee and honestly thought I was still half asleep. I blinked twice because what I was looking at made no sense. 12-foot cedar panels, brand new, wrapped around my entire backyard and one side of the house like somebody had decided overnight that me and my daughter needed to disappear. I could barely see daylight through the kitchen window. And what the people in that neighborhood didn't realize yet was this. They had just declared war on the one property in the entire subdivision they absolutely could not afford to pick a fight with. My name's Nolan Mercer. I'm a systems analyst outside Scottsdale, Arizona, and I've spent most of my adult life doing the same thing. Solving problems quietly, spotting patterns nobody else notices, fixing messes before they get ugly. I'm not confrontational. Never have been. My wife passed away 4 years ago, and since then it's just been me and my daughter, Chloe. She's 9, smart as a whip, stubborn like her mom, and obsessed with painting giant flowers on anything that stays still too long. The house we live in is older than everything around it. Built in the late 80s, tan brick, wide porch, mesquite tree out front. It sat on this land years before Silver Canyon Estates ever existed. Then developers bought everything around us and built 21 polished Southwestern-style homes with matching stucco walls, matching roofs, matching mailboxes, matching everything. And there we were in the middle of it, the one house that looked different. For years the HOA treated me like an unwanted guest at somebody else's dinner party. They sent letters, offered buyouts, called my place architecturally inconsistent, which is a fancy way of saying they hated that I didn't match their brochure. Their board president, Valerie Dunn, especially hated it. Valerie had one of those smiles that looked warm from 20 feet away and cold as steel up close. Every conversation with her somehow felt like she was politely threatening you. She'd stop by with paperwork and say things like, "We'd love to preserve the neighborhood aesthetic, Nolan." And I'd smile and say, "That's great, Valerie, because I'm preserving my mortgage." Chloe loved this house. Last summer, she painted bright yellow daisies along her bedroom wall and asked if she could paint a sun by the window too. I said yes. It was home. That morning she walked into the kitchen rubbing her eyes and stopped dead. "Dad, why is it dark?" I turned. The new fence blocked nearly everything. They'd placed it right against the property line, towering above the windows. It cast this heavy shadow straight through the kitchen where Chloe ate breakfast every morning. No notice. No conversation. Nothing. Just a giant wooden wall like we'd been boxed in. I called Valerie. Straight to voicemail. Called again. Nothing. Then she texted me 5 words. "Fully compliant with community guidelines." That was it. I laughed when I read it. Not because it was funny, but because sometimes when people cross a line so hard you can't believe it, laughing is easier than saying what you really want to say. By noon I'd had enough and called a plumber because something had bothered me for years. The developers had done extensive underground utility work in the 90s, and my basement utility room had always looked strange. Pipes added after the original build, old permits taped behind a panel, valves nobody ever explained. The plumber's name was Marco, late 50s, calm guy, looked like nothing surprised him anymore. He spent 40 minutes downstairs, then came up slower than he'd gone down, holding his phone. "Mr. Mercer," he said, "you need to see this." We walked downstairs. In the corner behind an old furnace sat a red industrial valve bigger than my hand. Thick main line feeding in. Then branches. A lot of branches. Marco zoomed in on the photos. Every home in this subdivision drains through this line. I stared at him. "What?" He nodded. "All of them." I thought he was joking. He wasn't. My chest got tight. I spent the next 2 hours digging through county records online and then drove downtown to verify permit archives. The original developer had applied for utility access through the Mercer property in 1993. Drainage easement request submitted, then rejected pending revised documentation. Revised filing? Never recorded. No legal easement. No amended title. Nothing attached to my deed. Which meant the main sewer junction under my basement floor was technically and legally on my land with no enforceable access rights. I sat in my truck in the parking lot staring at the paperwork while the Arizona heat baked through the windshield. And for the first time in years, Valerie's smug little HOA stopped feeling powerful. Because suddenly I understood the pattern. They'd spent years assuming I'd cave because I was the odd house out. They thought different meant weak. They thought quiet meant harmless. They thought a fence would make me disappear. I got home around 5. Chloe was drawing on the patio. She looked up and asked, "Did they say sorry?" I smiled and kissed the top of her head. "Not exactly." Then I walked downstairs, put both hands on that red steel valve, felt the resistance in the metal, and turned it slowly clockwise until it locked into place. No drama. No yelling. Just one click. Clean. Precise. Then I went upstairs, drafted 21 certified notices, and printed every single one. Effective immediately, private sewer infrastructure access license available at $950 per household per month, 15-year prepaid term required. Response due within 72 hours. I mailed them before sunset. By bedtime, the fence outside still blocked the kitchen windows. Chloe was asleep under painted daisies. And I sat on the porch listening to cicadas, thinking about what would happen next. I didn't have to wonder long, because by sunrise the next morning, Silver Canyon Estates had started to smell different. By sunrise the next morning, Silver Canyon Estates had started to smell different. Not everywhere at first, just little pockets. A faint sour smell drifting across driveways, somebody opening a patio door and immediately closing it again, confused faces outside with coffee mugs looking around like maybe an animal had gotten into something. I stood in my kitchen making scrambled eggs while Chloe hummed to herself at the table, coloring a horse bright purple, because apparently horses could be purple now, and she was absolutely certain about that. Then my phone rang. "Valerie." I let it ring twice before answering. "Nolan," she said in that same polished HOA voice, except now there was a crack in it. "Some residents are having plumbing issues." "That's unfortunate. Did you receive our text regarding the fence?" "Sure did." Long pause. Then she said, "This isn't related, is it?" I looked out the window at 12 feet of cedar blocking the sunrise. "I guess that depends whether your plumbing is fully compliant with community guidelines." Silence. Then she hung up. Around noon, I saw the first real panic. A woman from 2 houses over came out carrying her toddler on one hip and a trash bag in the other, walking fast toward the clubhouse while talking loudly into her phone. Half an hour later, a landscaping crew stood outside another home, staring at a puddle backing up near a side drain. By late afternoon, the neighborhood Facebook group had already gone nuclear. One resident posted a photo of standing water in their downstairs shower. Another blamed tree roots. Somebody else blamed cheap contractor work. Then a guy named Trevor Hammond posted a screenshot of my certified notice and wrote, "Are we seriously being extorted right now?" That comment alone exploded into 80 replies in under an hour. By dinner, the smell had spread. Chloe wrinkled her nose and asked why it smelled weird outside. I told her the desert does strange things when pipes get backed up, which technically wasn't a lie. Day 3 hit harder. Trucks started showing up. A local septic company rolled through the gate around 8 in the morning and parked outside the clubhouse. Then another one came before lunch. By mid-afternoon, neighbors were openly standing in clusters on sidewalks arguing. I could hear snippets from my porch. "He can't legally do that." "Then why hasn't the county stopped him?" "Because apparently the line runs under his property." How was nobody aware of this? Chloe sat beside me eating popsicles and quietly watching grown adults unravel in real time. "Are they mad?" she asked. "A little." "Did they build the fence because they were being mean?" That one landed harder than I expected. Kids cut straight through every adult excuse. "Yeah," I said finally. "A little mean." She nodded like she'd solved the mystery and went back to her popsicle. That afternoon, Valerie marched up my driveway wearing white pants and carrying a folder under one arm like paperwork itself might somehow intimidate me. "Open the line," she said before I even stood up. No smile this time. "You fenced my property without notice." "The board approved improvements." "Interesting. I approved sewer access improvements too." Her jaw tightened. "This affects families. So does cutting sunlight from a 9-year-old's breakfast table." She stepped closer. "The county will compel you." "Then call them." She actually did. Right there. Put the county zoning officer on speaker. Explained the situation in clipped legal language, emphasizing shared essential utility access and public sanitation risk. The officer listened, asked for parcel numbers, then said words I'm pretty sure Valerie never expected to hear. "Ma'am, there's no recorded easement on file. This is a private civil matter." Valerie went pale. "He can't just shut it off. He can restrict access to infrastructure on titled property absent recorded encumbrance. Civil court would be your avenue." She thanked him through clenched teeth and ended the call. Then she looked at me like she wanted me vaporized. You planned this. No, I said honestly. You built a wall around my home. Then I learned where your sewer line runs. She left without another word. That evening, Silver Canyon smelled like a campground bathroom in August. The Facebook page hit over 200 comments. People started turning on the HOA fast. One homeowner uploaded a video, standing in his driveway, yelling while a septic truck pumped in the background. It got shared all over Scottsdale. Somebody started a recall petition. Another resident posted invoices from emergency plumbers. A retired couple on the West End packed bags and checked into a Marriott because their downstairs bathroom flooded twice. By day 5, things got expensive. Septic trucks rotated through the neighborhood every couple hours. I overheard one driver say they'd already billed over $5,000. Then an emergency bypass estimate came in from a contractor, $187,000 and 6 to 8 weeks minimum. That's when panic turned political. 3 board members suddenly claimed prior scheduling conflicts and disappeared. Valerie didn't disappear. She doubled down. Around noon, she came back with an attorney named Richard Bell. Gray suit. Expensive watch. Very calm. He shook my hand and tried the professional approach. Mr. Mercer, we believe access here may qualify under easement by necessity. Maybe, I said, if it had ever been recorded. I handed him copies from county archives and my clean deed. He read the pages once, then again slower. His eyebrows moved exactly half an inch. Valerie noticed. Well, she snapped. Richard exhaled. There's no formal encumbrance. But necessity, Valerie. He lowered his voice. Necessity arguments require litigation. Possibly months. Months. Possibly more. From the street behind them came the backup beeping of another septic truck reversing through the gate. Nobody said anything for a second. Then Chloe opened the front door behind me and whispered, Dad, can I still paint the mailbox later? Richard actually smiled a little. Of course you can, I said. Valerie looked like she might combust. By sunset, 5 families had left for hotels. The smell was everywhere now. Residents weren't whispering anymore. They were angry, loud, and very publicly asking why the HOA spent money fencing off one homeowner while ignoring utility records for 20 years. Trevor Hammond, the same guy who accused me of extortion, posted again around 9 p.m. This time his tone had changed. We should have left Nolan alone. That got over 300 reactions. I sat on the porch under the warm desert air while Chloe slept inside and watched headlights move through the gate. Septic truck, contractor van, lawyer sedan, then another septic truck. It was almost funny in a surreal way. For years they wanted my house hidden because it didn't fit the neighborhood image. Now every person living behind those gates was being forced to look directly at it. And just after sunrise on day 6, Valerie came back one more time. Except this time she wasn't alone, and she wasn't carrying paperwork anymore. She was carrying a cashier's check. Valerie came back one more time. Except this time she wasn't alone, and she wasn't carrying paperwork anymore. She was carrying a cashier's check with both hands like it physically offended her to touch it. Richard Bell walked beside her looking exhausted, tie loosened, jacket folded over one arm like he'd had a very long 48 hours. Behind them, parked along the curb, were 3 residents I recognized and 2 I didn't. All watching like this had turned into some kind of neighborhood trial nobody wanted to miss. Valerie stopped at the edge of my porch and stared at me for a second before speaking. No polished smile. No HOA voice. No rehearsed authority. Just tired and angry and embarrassed. The board voted, she said. Effective immediately, the fencing comes down. Full removal and restoration. We'll pay for landscaping repairs. Richard handed me the agreement packet. And the sewer access license under your terms. I read every page carefully because that's exactly the kind of thing people skip when emotions are high and then regret later. 21 homes. $950 per household per month. 15-year prepaid term. $71,800 wired immediately. $12,000 for restoring the walkway and replacing damaged exterior trim where the fence posts had cut too close to the house. A legal acknowledgement of private access rights. No future construction or visual barriers within designated setback lines. Everything clean. Everything enforceable. Valerie folded her arms. Are we done? I looked up. Soon. Then I walked inside and called Chloe down from upstairs. She came running barefoot and stopped next to me on the porch. What's happening? she whispered. Remember how you asked if they were going to say sorry? She looked at Valerie. Valerie looked like she'd rather negotiate with a cactus. Then Chloe nodded slowly. Did they? I smiled a little. In their own way. Richard cleared his throat and pointed toward the signature pages. Valerie signed first. Hard enough, I thought the pen might break. Then Richard witnessed. Then I signed. It was weirdly quiet after that. No speeches. No dramatic threats. Just paper changing hands and desert wind moving through the mesquite branches. Valerie passed me the cashier's check, and for 1 second I saw something human underneath all that pride. Not kindness exactly, but realization. The kind that hits when someone spends years trying to control every detail and suddenly learns they were never actually in control at all. She looked past me toward the kitchen window still buried in shadow and said, softer than I expected, "We shouldn't have built the fence." "No," I said. "You shouldn't have." Then she turned and walked off the porch. By noon, contractors had already started removing panels. The sound of drills and wood cracking echoed through the block. Sunlight slowly came back through the kitchen window piece by piece until Chloe was standing there grinning with yellow paint on her fingers while the bright Arizona afternoon filled the room again. I went downstairs to the basement one last time. The red steel valve looked exactly the same as before. Quiet. Heavy. I put one hand on it while Chloe stood on the stairs watching. "Can I do it?" she asked. I laughed. "Maybe when you're 30. Then I turned the valve counterclockwise. Slow. One full turn, then another. Water pressure shifted through the line with a deep metallic sound, and somewhere outside I heard one of the septic trucks start up and pull away. Then another, and another, like a parade heading out of town. Chloe peeked through the basement door and wrinkled her nose. "Smells better already." "Definitely does." The neighborhood changed after that. Fast. The recall petition removed the remaining board members within 2 weeks. A temporary committee took over, and for the first time since Silver Canyon was built, people actually knocked on my door like neighbors instead of opponents. Trevor Hammond brought over barbecue and apologized in person. The retired couple from the West End dropped off cookies for Chloe. Somebody even helped repaint the mailbox she'd been talking about all week, and she covered one side with bright yellow flowers and tiny blue stars. Valerie sold her house 6 months later. I haven't seen her since. Sometimes I still sit on the porch in the evening and look out across the neighborhood. 21 clean white stucco homes lined up neat and perfect, and one older tan brick house right in the middle with a mesquite tree and painted flowers on the mailbox and sunlight pouring straight through the kitchen windows. Still different. Still doesn't match. And honestly, I like it better that way. Maybe neighborhoods don't need to look identical to feel like a community. Maybe the person who stands out isn't the problem. Maybe sometimes they're the only reason the whole thing keeps working in the first place. But I'm curious what you think. If someone boxed in your home, cut off your light, and tried to erase you because you didn't fit their picture-perfect neighborhood, then found out they depended on your property the whole time, would you have opened that valve sooner, charged more, or made them wait even longer? Let me know down in the comments because I still think about that sometimes, and I honestly still can't decide if I went too easy on them, or exactly easy enough.